We wrap up every Sunday here on the set of Football Night in America. Rodney Harrison, Tony Dungy, Mike Tirico. And I want to talk about a couple of the Final Four teams from last year. You guys said a lot about these teams during Football Night in America. Let's start with the Philadelphia Eagles. Doug Peterson says the pressure's off now. We're 3-4. Nobody believes in us now. We can just be loose and we can have fun and we can go win football games.
This is a man that's coached over 30 years, right?
I did.
Would you ever tell your team the pressure's off?
No, and especially not in that situation. I'd go just the opposite way. Hey, we're 3-4. We've dug ourselves a hole. The pressure is on us. Now we've got to get on an 8 or 9 game winning streak, and you do that by playing good football, which Philadelphia is not doing right now.
Yeah, for the life of me, I just look at it, it just feels like it's an excuse by Doug Peterson. If anything, embrace it. You know what I'm saying? Embrace, hey, we got pressure on us. We have new expectations. We have high expectations. Last year, you won the Super Bowl with a backup quarterback. Now you have your starting quarterback, Mike. The expectation should be there for you to repeat.
The season's been uneven for them, starting right from the beginning because we didn't know when Wentz was coming back. Then he comes in, starts to play well. The one yesterday, Sunday, was bizarre. They were up 17-0. They had complete control of that game. The Panthers did not score in their first 5 possessions, and then Cam Newton woke up and they got going. And Philadelphia couldn't crank it back up. So that's an odd thing to see. And now they have to go to London to play Jacksonville. All of a sudden, you're now maybe a couple of games back in the division. That's a scary time. I think there is pressure, and they should feel it now.
They should feel it. And here's the thing, and you know this very well. When you win the Super Bowl, everybody studies you. Everybody that's going to play you, they look at what you do. So they've studied that offense. They played a little bit differently. And the defense is not playing like they played last year. That's the difference. They're giving up all these big plays in the throwing game. They've got to get that under control.
And, Mike, what I would like to see is Doug Peterson. If I was in that locker room, I would like him to stand up and say, you know what, I need to do a better job as a coach preparing you guys to teach you guys how to finish in the fourth quarter and overtime as opposed to making excuses.
And I think from a fundamental standpoint on offense, their running game isn't what it was last year. They've lost Jay Ajayi. I don't, there was some talk. Maybe they'd like to get Le'Veon Bell. I don't know if that's a possibility.
Zach
Getting close to the
plays.
Yeah, but if you're up 17-0, you should have a running game that can close the door, and they weren't able to close the door.
It was so funny. We saw them celebrate one of the touchdowns early in the game with one of those celebrations like they had last year. They set up like a free kick in soccer. I'm like, good. Here are the Eagles. Now this is the team we saw last year. And then that fourth quarter hit. It could be a different story.
But what he's trying to do is, like last year, they were underdogs. Now he's trying to reverse everything to make it seem like he's the underdog.
We're underdogs again.
You're
That's
not.
Bring the masks back out. Bring the masks back out.
Very best every single week.
What they've got to do is some way get those corners to stop giving up big plays.
So they will play the Jaguars on Sunday in London. And the Jaguars, you had some strong comments, Rodney, soft on defense. I believe that what happened was when they beat the Patriots and went to 2-0, they just wanted to fast forward to the AFC Championship game and beat the Patriots again. And they forgot that they have to win 1 week at a time to even be in position to play in the playoffs.
But I think Coach said it best when you talked about Jalen Ramsey in his comments that he made earlier
Yeah, to me, that's where it started. And, yeah, they got off to a 2-0 start, but you're in the offseason, and one of your best players is talking about other teams and other players. These guys aren't good. We're this guy's a bad player. And nobody calmed him down. Nobody said, hey, you know what? We have to play. And they're not playing right now. They lost Leonard Fournette. That hurt them, some of their identity on offense. But their defense, as you pointed out, is not playing like we saw last year.
Yeah, for so many years we played against your teams. And the one thing that I could appreciate about our teams as well as your team is the leadership. When things were going bad, you had guys to stand up. And if some knucklehead would say something, you have a veteran player go up to him. And you don't care if he's a first rounder, if he's a guy that's making a lot of money, you will pull him to the side and you will make sure you get that guy back in line. And obviously they don't have any leadership, Mike.
Can I ask you a question about the offense? They've been outscored 57-0 in the first half. The last 3 weeks, they haven't scored a point. And now Blake Bortles has been benched. Mike, you've been down this road on this show with the conversation of the contract with Blake Bortles. It's a 3-year deal, but after 1 year, it's a little easier to get out. But what about right now? Yeah. This team is expecting to win now. Cody Kessler is probably not the answer. Where do they find some confidence on that offensive side of the ball with Bortles as their quarterback?
They've got to get that running game back going. That's when Blake Bortles was effective. When everybody was up there, all the safeties were close to the line of scrimmage trying to stop Leonard Fournette. You know what the coverage is. I got single coverage on the outside. Now when you don't have that run threat, it's harder for the quarterback.
I'm blaming you. Because I'm blaming
Tirico?
you. No, I'm blaming you because when they played the Patriots, you gave their offense coordinator a shout out, and ever since they beat the Patriots, all of a sudden they start slinging the ball around. Blake Bortles threw the ball 61 times at one point. I blame it on you, Coach. It's all your fault.
To the point that Mike made, in the offseason, when they could have severed ties with Blake Bortles at no financial consequence of any kind, and think of all the free agent quarterbacks that were available, all the rookies, they could have taken Lamar Jackson to pick number 29. There were so many things they could have done, traded for Alex Smith, so much they could have done. They said, we are doubling down with this guy. We want the guy that we know.
And you know what? Blake Bortles will be fine if they're running the ball well and playing defense.
It's an attitude.
They were Saxonville last year. We were watching them. So that's front fours all over the place. They're playing all enthused with fire, running to the ball. We aren't seeing that this year for some reason.
Campbell and Ngakoue, those guys who were Miles Jack constantly making plays have not been. And Mike, just we now have 20/20 hindsight on this. Just remember, they were this close to beating New England with Bortles, who had won at Pittsburgh. So they had enough offense in the biggest moments against the two teams that have been, for the decade, the top of the AFC. So you do understand why you said, we probably give this another shot on the way back.
To me, it has nothing to do with really personnel. It's about attitude. And when I look at that tape and I study it every single week, I don't see the effort. I don't see the passion. I don't see the emotion. I don't see the safeties going up in there flying. I see guys backing off, preserving themselves. And they flat out turn out into a soft defense.
They forgot what got them there last year, plain and simple. They lost sight of it, whether it's Jalen Ramsey talking, whatever it is. They go back to 0-0, and I think they just want to get back to where they were and forget about every step of the way that they need to do to get there.
We've always talked about those games in London, that you get teams that maybe are not the best matchup. Before the season, this looked like one of the best matchups we've ever seen in the London games. Now it is for a different reason, that both of these teams are really desperate,
and we're going to see who's desperate and who plays like that. We heard Doug Marrone say, hey, we're upset or perturbed, whatever he said.
That's not what he said.
If they play like it, they'll be fine. But if they play like they've played the last couple of weeks, it's going to be embarrassing.
I tell you, the one way to get a player's attention is to put him on a bench. And
So
it's not just the quarterback, but he's going to look at that tape, and defensively, I feel like they're going to try to make a statement. He's going to try to make a statement and bench one of those guys.
You know, it's a great point, though. Desperation Sunday in London with both teams at 3-4. The loser picks up loss number 5, and the window gets so much tighter at that point to make it to the postseason.
You're going to be in here with me at 9:30 in the morning? I'll bring the tea. I'll bring the English
let's
tea.
do it. Let's do it.
Let's
go.
All right, we'll see you next week, too.
You? I'll see you at halftime. Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.